And we're live. Super cool. Today is September 6th. I'm Nick Cox. We're doing State of the Network. This is on the new channel of Deep in State, which is where we're going to be hosting State of the Network going forward. So that's what's going on there. There's a couple things to talk about today, at least a couple things I've got on my list. I got the Deni List stuff. I've been hearing a bunch about that. I haven't paid super close attention to it, but sounds like it's a pretty serious work in progress right now. Yeah, not totally ready for prime time. Although it is in prime time, so there's that. And then what else have we got? Yo, what's up, Keenan? We got the Deep In Summit that I moderated a panel on there, and Abai was on that panel. We'll see if Abai comes on today. What's up, Kenny? To talk about that. I think the big takeaway there was there's a ton of projects building in the space. So pretty cool to see everybody. What's up, Lee? Pretty cool to see everybody fucking crushing in there. Let's see if I can get Joey in here and go to, what's up, Joey?
Yo.
All right, let's see if I can get you here and change the name.
French accent.
Yeah. Oui. All right, I think that should do it. Cool. What's up, dog? You're in a workshop today. I like it.
Yeah, hanging out in the garage, trying to organize a bit. But
It's like your natural habitat.
I got myself a CNC router table, and it has been absorbing all of my extra time. So I woke up this morning at like 6 a.m. and ran straight down here to try some cuts.
Hell yeah. What are
Did
you
not go
making?
well, but
No?
yeah.
Okay.
So far, just trying to get the T slots in, so I can have all the like work holding and all of that.
Okay. I'm not super familiar with them, so it looks badass.
Yeah. It's just you got your little bits, yeah,
Very
and then
cool.
you got an array of these, and then you can hold stuff in place.
God. God knows I fucking love me some good tools.
Yep. It's a whole new learning curve, but it's been fun.
Zim wants to see the thing.
It's
Is
let's see, we can try.
it?
Uh, all right.
Hmm. Dang,
Yeah,
that is not
so
a small piece of equipment.
it's not. It's like 500 pounds, 4 foot by 2 foot.
Hell yeah.
Got a
Love
crazy deal
that.
on it, but yeah, this morning's error is I'm using an up bit, which
Okay.
means it's got a bunch of downward force, and it actually sucked itself through the table out of the collet, and it was a whole thing. So
Awesome. Awesome.
taking a little breather. Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny with tools. It's like I get most of my fun maybe not out of the finished piece, but of course out of the process, just like figuring out all the shit along the way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
super cool. What's up,
That's
Mark?
why we're
What's up,
here.
Jay? Rock, good to see everybody. Zim, heck yeah. Joey, I missed a couple things. I heard some complaints. Some people were hitting me with DMs to see if I could just sprinkle some magic and get their hotspots off the deny list, which I cannot do. But walk me through what's going on there, dude.
Well, I guess first off, I also don't have that magic, unfortunately. But I've been talking with the team a lot to try to figure out the right approach here.
Yeah.
It's a tricky situation, as anyone who's been around kind of knows with the deny list. It's a hate to have it, but gotta have it sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely sort of an uptick. It seems like a lot of gateways that are, positioned really high, maybe sort of caught up and looking like they're asserted, not in the right place, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so we had a really good update from the team that's working on it. That's, Mark and Professor and Star Watcher.
Yep.
Um, Yesterday on the IoT working group call, they've been collecting all of this data. People are jumping into the CrowdSpot deny list channel,
Yep.
having really good conversation there. Um, they've, you know, I guess I applaud them for how involved and how attentive they've been to the
Hmm.
issues that are coming up.
Yeah.
But they are thinking they should have a couple improvements coming out this week. Hopefully that clears up some of the, false positives that we're seeing.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, all in all, like it's I'm holding out hope, that this is the right direction for the deny list. And ideally we eliminate this sort of like crowd spot community like thing because it just tends to be people just go spam it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
get their
it's a shit
buddies to
show.
go say like I shouldn't be on the deny list, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's a it's a challenge.
yeah, God bless them.
But
God
yeah,
bless. I know the
but
Smart Island Ibiza people. I think all of their hotspots got put on it, and they were like, "Dude, we're building a thing here. We've put up a bunch of publicity. What's going on?" And people yelling at them like, "Oh, you must be cheating!" And they're like, "No, we're a wisp. Like, why would we cheat? We're trying to get this thing used." So I
right.
think I look at it as like it's you know fucking unpleasant teething as we get to the
Well,
place where
and what we started to see is as we start digging into this data, and I think we talked about this yesterday on the working group call, but we're seeing cases where folks are hearing beacons, they're transmitting those over the internet to other hotspots, and then retransmitting those beacons over RF. And so it starts to look incredibly suspicious, right? That
yeah,
these these clusters are seeing high RSSIs of these beacon events all over the place. And so that's the assumption of some of these folks that are getting wrapped into it are sort of guilty by you know you whatever, I
just
don't know,
being close or
still
something.
waking up, yeah, to
Yeah, yeah,
by association, I guess, and still
yeah, yeah. Just
yeah.
being close in there. No,
So
it's a tough
anyway,
thing, and
yeah,
it's hard. It's always been hard for me to understand. Is I think of myself as one of the good guys. It's like, fuck, what a waste of time to be trying to do something the wrong way when you could just do it the right way and not have to worry about it. But
yeah,
there's a lot of people who are like, hey, this is free tokens, and it's easier for me to cheat than to actually earn it. So I think we just got to do something with the incentives and the rules and the setup to make it so that the best way to do things is the way that helps the network. That's the
yep,
goal.
and it'll keep evolving. Like we've seen rapid change already. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a week and a half, 2 weeks,
yeah.
something like we're cranking. We're seeing the folks crank on it.
I missed you at the Deep in Summit.
I know.
What happened?
I was out for a wedding last week,
Okay.
and unfortunately got kind of sick, but so
Hmm.
kind of killed my week. But yeah, on the East Coast last week, unfortunately,
Okay. Cool.
would have
No,
been there.
it
Yeah,
was a neat thing. It was neat to see how many different companies are coming into the space. Sal and Mesh at EV3 did a really good job of putting together a bunch of different folks. And just interesting to see kind of everybody there. One of the guys, what's the famous VC firm, A16Z, was there, and that guy
hmm,
just got mobbed. He was like pinned in the corner for the entire time. I felt bad for him.
yep, yep,
And then there's a bunch of other meetings coming up. I know Spiller is going to Token 2049 next week
yep.
at the real world thing in Singapore. So I think there's, what certainly what Max and I are seeing is there's a lot of people building in the space and figuring this stuff out. So it's an exciting time to see that when kind of the rest of the market is like, oh, we're fucked. It's like, ah, these guys are just building. That's all. Keep your head down. Build the structure.
Yeah. No, it's exciting to be a part of it, right? Like
Yeah,
you're this like binder of this community,
yeah, it's
and then
super cool.
like Helium had the opportunity to sort of pave the way in certain respects, but we're starting to see a lot of these other projects like great, really innovative approaches, really
Yeah,
innovative like token mechanisms, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's super cool. And I always think when I'm up there. I think I said a couple things about this at the summit on the panel I moderated with the buy, but it's like everyone likes to take the cheap shots at Helium, like, oh, Helium fucked this up and Helium did this wrong. It's like they were the first. They built the biggest. They did really, really well. And it's impossible to do anything perfectly. So yeah, they fuck some things up. But man, there's a lot of
Yeah,
props go out to Helium for it.
it's really the challenge of building in public too. Like
Yeah,
this denialist stuff.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
folks are in there talking about it. It proof of coverage, like all of it, hips. It there's a lot of opinions to have when you're sort of looking at all those little details
yeah,
without the wrapper of marketing and all that other fun stuff. So
yeah.
yeah,
My rapper.
right, yeah,
It is funny. We just started pushing stuff out on the Golden Hawk site. I put a link to one of their article we put out today on it, and it's funny to kind of be writing again for these communities the way I wrote for Gristle King, and just saying like, hey, this is what you have to tell people what's going on is you have to break it down to a really basic level. Not because people are stupid, but because things are new, right? This is a whole new way of doing it. And you think about the idea of decentralization is super cool, but it brings with it a pretty awesome responsibility that we certainly have not figured out how to manage really well yet. Or how to value, right? Like, how do you pay people for doing their part? Can you do it just with tokens? Do you have to do it tokens and fiat? Is there another way to do it? There's a lot to kind of still be uncovered. So,
Hmm.
let's see, Andre. I'd like to know why so many devices regularly mounted ended up on the Deni List. Yeah, I think this is what we're talking about, Andre. Is that I would expect this thing to be a lot like I expected the transition to Solana to be. Like, it's just going to break. There's going to be shit that's wrong with it for the first 2 months. And I don't think anyone at Helium Foundation would say that long. But I just think it's a big, sticky, hard problem. And you're dealing with people who are cheating for sometimes lots of value. And those things take time to sort out. And to get, I was just actually, we're doing some advertising on Google for Deep in State. And I was talking to the Google ad people on YouTube, and the lady had said, she's like, hey, it takes like 2 weeks for our machine learning thing to kind of catch up and figure out where to place your ad and how to best place it. And I think, part of that is just Google bleeding money out of me. But part of that is like, hey, if it takes fucking Google 2 weeks to figure something out, probably going to take us a little bit longer to figure the same thing out with machine learning. Like, nothing happens overnight as much as we might want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and we've done the machine learning approach on the Deni List. We've seen that in effect. This current approach is not machine learning, as far as I understand it. Like, there could be something in there that
Are you using
Starwatcher or
both,
somebody's
or
applied.
have we totally? Because I know Matthew had put a bunch of stuff in
I think this is
Starwatcher.
purely algorithmic. That they're, sort of wrapping up all of the beacon events,
Hmm.
and then sort of trying to get a sense for distance and yeah,
Okay.
they're, they're looking at terrain, they're looking at distance, they're looking at how far those things witness, like all that kind of stuff. So if you're trying to understand a specific gateway, like there's a number of reasons, and the tools that the team has put together, help to describe that a bit, but um, it's going to be constantly evolving.
Yeah. Long way from perfect, but
Yeah,
just got to build. I wanted to, let's see, can we talk about this? What is it, Hyperdrive? Or is that still top secret?
I think it's public.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so
Tell me about
another
it.
Solana hackathon.
Okay.
It's cool to start seeing a lot of these things pop up. Actually, so the cool thing, and it sort of ties into what you're talking about with Deep in State, is one of the tracks is not Helium centric, it's just Deep in centric.
Okay.
And so if you want to build on Helium, awesome. If you want to build your own brand new network on the Solana network, then also awesome. And so there's a ton of opportunity to get in there and try to start thinking of what the next cool thing is. We sent it like these Solana hackathons. Like, I've done a lot of hackathons sort of
Mm-hmm.
throughout my career.
Yeah.
Nothing compares to the amount of companies that seem to like turn out of these Solana hackathons. Like,
Really?
there are so many groups that like come in, do these hackathons, they get money, they get funding, and then they're like companies in the ecosystem. Sphere comes to mind. We worked with them to build the data credit portal. They
Yep.
built first as
Yep.
a Solana hackathon. Um, so draws in a ton of cool people, um, creates tons of opportunity to come in and like talk to the experts, like Noah on Twitter slash
Yep.
X.
Yep. Yeah.
Sad moment. I was trying to search for Twitter on my phone and it wouldn't come up anymore.
Really?
Um,
Oh, it's gone, huh? Okay.
they're killing it on me.
Holy
Um,
X. All right.
yep. But yeah, he's like, yeah, hit me up with questions. I'll walk you through the programs. Like, if you want to know what's going on there, and I'm always open to trying to help folks understand LoRaWAN side of things. But there's a lot of folks out there that could do that. Um, so yeah, get in there.
Cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
Links up there, so check it out. Let's see. WTV. It's funny. I think all these people on this channel I talk to on Discord or somewhere all the time. And a lot of times their names are different. in Discord or YouTube. So WTV, I may talk to you all the time and never know who you are because it's just different here. But he's got a question for you about the timeline for hosting oracles outside Nova.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
We've been talking a lot about that, trying to figure out the right approach for what it means to decentralize these oracles. As with any piece of infrastructure, we saw this with validators. Like there's a lot of power and responsibility wrapped up in those entities.
Yeah.
And in the case of how things are currently working, there's kind of a lot of oracles. We have HPR, which is effectively an oracle. You know,
Okay.
it takes traffic from the network and forwards it to wherever it's supposed to go.
Yep.
We have proof of coverage. We have there's price oracles are handled by Solana now, stuff like that. So we want to start getting some designs together, and we've been sort of trying to aim for the end of the year to have like an approach to start chasing in 2024. That's sort of the loose timeline right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early 2024.
Yeah.
Badass. Dude, what else is going on in your world? Or
Well, I saw Ed talking about USDC on Solana. That's a cool thing. I'm actually wearing my Solana hat that I bought with USDC through Shopify. That was
Okay.
pretty cool little moment. Just like magic internet money and magic hat shows up in my mailbox.
That's pretty rad. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Lee says to hit the like button. I always have to get reminded about this. I'm sure Max will come on at some point and ask why we still have 𝗪𝗁𝐾 in the background when this is a deep in state, but it's
The like button,
is it? That's right. Is it here?
an inch down there. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
somewhere. I mean, fuck, if you can't find a like button, there's not much I can do to help you. Hey, I came across a cool project that is relevant to pretty much anyone watching the show because it's all about keeping your seed phrase safe. And I think a lot of folks, well, I'll just speak for myself. I've kept my seed phrases on pieces of paper for a long time just because it was easy and and most of them, I'm guessing this is the way other folks have done it as well, although not everyone will admit it, is most of them are just like scribbled out pieces. You know, it's like chicken, 7, sky, and sometimes I don't know what wallet it is and I've got to write down the, first 4, last 4 of the wallet just to remind myself. It's kind of a shit show. And Lee is always worried about, what happens if that burns or gets lost or whatever. So we were looking for all these hardware wallets, or we're looking at all these different hardware, not hardware wallets. It's like hardware seed storage things. And there's a ton of like this, battle armor marketing bullshit on the internet where it's like titanium 7C, this will fucking bounce off of Mars or whatever their stupid shit is. And they're $300 or $400 each. And so it seemed to me, because I've got a bunch of wallets, I've got Polygon wallets, I've got a bunch of different Helium wallets from the various kind of explorations in there. It's like, how do you make this so that you could have a bunch of different seed storages and not pay, even $40 per, because let's say I got 10 wallets, all of a sudden you're spending $400. And you can make the argument that the crypto is worth more than that, but not everyone has $400 to throw around. Before I go further, do you mind telling me how you do your cold storage or your whatever your hardware storage for seed? Do you just have it on paper as well, or do you have it like hammered into metal somewhere, or is it a secret? You could just give me the X like I'm not talking.
Yeah.
Secret. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Yep.
Yeah, is I found this thing. It's a 3D project, and you can basically print all these little pieces. So there's, I don't know, I printed them in two colors. And what happens is you have, I wonder if there's an easy way to demonstrate this. I'll find it. Yeah. Is that this piece here, the gold piece fits into the silver piece. And it's got a little hole for a letter punch. So you buy a $20 metal letter punch set on Amazon and you put the punch through that hole. And then the rest of it is set up so that you put a washer in there. The washer is fixed in there. And punches it around the edge of the washer. Now you can get zinc plated washers and you'll have engineers tell you that zinc will melt in a fire. So you can find fancier washers. I'm sure you can find titanium washers somewhere. But it's a way to make really clearly all of your seed words hammered into metal. The 3D is, whatever the 3D costs to print. Even if you get that on, Prusa's worldwide printing site or you have some thing do it, I'm guessing that it's not more than $30 for that. And then $20 for a metal set, metal printing set. And then whatever the washers and a bolt cost to put the washers on. So each washer, you'll hammer a number on it. I don't know how well you can see this, but the top two
Yeah, that,
things are for the number. So 01, 02, 03, and then the bottom 7 or
oh,
8 are
nice.
for your words. So it just makes it really clear and easy to make a ton of different, God, I'm sure there's a word for it, but like seed storage in metal. So,
Totally. Yeah, I've actually made dog tags with washers before. They're
oh, cool.
surprisingly, like, it works really well to stamp them. And
Nice.
sparing jet fuel and melting your steel washers, I think you'd be pretty good. And I love that it's got the number on there. It's one of those critical
Yeah.
bits.
Yep. No, I've been going through doing my taxes recently, and of course, 6 months behind on that because it's like, oh, taxes, I'll get to that later. Now it's like, shit, you don't have much later left. um,
Yeah.
but what I found was going through and hooking it all into Zen Ledger. It's like, dude, I got all these fucking wallets. They're all on pieces of paper scattered around. I needed a better way, so I figured I'd share that with the
Yeah.
rest of you.
No,
Oh,
that's great because you can get a case of washers for $5 and you can
yeah.
get a stamp set for 15 on Amazon, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
see if I
totally a
can
good project.
find the cool little 3D print thing. And drop the link because I thought it was like, this is such an easy way to do this stuff, and it makes it accessible for everybody. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, have you seen Huddle 01?
No.
Okay. So that's a cool thing that we're starting to use. Like I'm starting to use throughout Chris. I'm sorry, I'm looking for this link. Huddle 01 is a Zoom alternative that's a decentralized thing. So I think you go to huddle01.com and you can start up a meeting right now. I should probably fucking charge these people for this, but I just think it's so cool. That it's like, I'm gonna do this stuff and we'll see where it goes because they don't have a token set up yet for it. So it may be that when they do get to that, Max and I'll come in and help them a bunch.
Cool.
But it's
Yeah, they could pay you to start doing your show with it.
they could, yeah. Maybe they sponsor the show. We'll see how they are. I think it's an interesting thing with a lot of these companies is that they don't have shit when they're starting, and so it's like, how do you help these companies that I think need help and I think are a good idea? And I think Huddle 01 is probably a pretty good idea. And eventually, what will happen is they're going to decentralize, or they're gonna allow you to run your own node so that you can host some of these whatever video conversations, and you'll get paid in tokens for that node. I'm gonna drop this link to that little project. There's the printables link.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, Huddle 01 was a cool thing, and I was like, oh, what was some of the cool stuff? Oh, you can sign in using your wallet. So if you want to be, you can be more anonymous than you might be on YouTube. Although you can be pretty anonymous on YouTube if you're farting around with it. You have like your fake accounts and the rest of it. But yeah, super cool thing.
Yeah, I wonder if I'll have to dig into it. I have like so many questions, like where's the bandwidth coming on, the compute, like all that, like people running nodes, like one of these, yeah, who knows? It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Abai saying good job catching up in the chat. Good job deflecting.
Yeah,
All right, good work. Yeah.
I answered correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say if someone wants to come in my house and get my 12 words, I'll just let you know, like, that is kind of my fantasy scenario. So
Knowing you, like, yes, that is appropriate.
I'm
Yeah.
not asking for it, but just so you know, it's not something where I'm going to be like, oh, this is a problem. It's like, I waited my whole life for this. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I should
I'm
have
gonna,
better security. I should have these things
all
little
right. So
better.
what I'll do is I'm going to give you my seed phrases, and then you'll protect them with all
Yeah.
of your all of your skills,
Yeah.
a certain set of skills. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great line. Yeah, I'm catching up with the chat. Yeah, extensions on taxes for sure. What's the HIP 85 thing? Let's pass HIP 85 past, less than 1% away
Oh,
from passing, that Shane's talking about. I haven't even looked at this thing. Have you?
yeah, you know what? Being under the weather last week,
Oh, you missed
I
it. Okay, cool.
entirely lose track of these things. 85 is mobile hex coverage limit. So
Okay.
That's the TLDR for you.
All right. Cool. Well, maybe
Yeah,
I'll have Max on to talk about it. I'm sure he's going to know all about it. Anything with
definitely.
mobile, that
Yeah.
guy's got all 11 fingers in there.
Do we need like a prefix on hips to say if it's IoT or mobile or network or sometimes I just it's a lot to keep lots it's lots to keep track of.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, is there an IoT mobile or maybe an HNT if it's like a network wide thing?
Yeah. Like
Um,
Abai's probably screaming in the background or something. Like
maybe, yeah. He's got the
he's a
link to come on, but he said
hip
he's got
maxi.
other stuff that he's got to do right now.
He's usually multitasking this time in the morning. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's always nice to get to talk to him. It's like, all right, I'm probably getting 30% of his compute right now, or cycles, or whatever the fucking cool thing you say is. Anything above 30%, it's like you got to watch out because he's super sharp.
yep.
It's like I'd rather you be distracted so I can talk to you a little bit and actually we can communicate rather than you put the full force of
I
my brain.
operate at an Abai 30%, so it works
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Dennis, I'd like to see the processing resources of helium miners be used for other stuff. Yeah, Neil's talked about this a bunch. And I think this is something that we'll hopefully eventually see is all the Raspberry Pis running helium hotspots, unlock the whatever 80% of power they have to do other things. So
Yeah, it's an opportunity. We're always kind of keeping our mind open towards other things that the network could be doing. But it's
yeah,
all building. So
let's see,
yeah.
Mark, what would be your suggestion on number of devices to make good returns in a rural area where there's no helium network 40 miles away? You know, I'll take this one because I think Joey can't talk about returns, but I'll just say that if you're getting into helium for returns at this point, it's probably too late, right? I think there's going to be an interesting piece, and maybe Max and I'll write something about this, but the concept is simple: is that, and we're certainly not the first people to come up with the idea, is that if there's whatever 300,000 or 400,000 devices on the network right now, I'm expecting, I don't know, 1 to 200,000 of them to go offline in the next year as people lose interest and it's not worth their time, and et cetera, et cetera. And we'll settle at something between 1 and 200,000 devices globally, which, if they're well deployed, is probably enough to do a pretty decent job of covering most of the places that need to get covering. And at that amount, there's also enough tokens being released that it is kind of interesting enough or valuable enough to keep your stuff up. So I think I'd look much more at like, what are you going to use that coverage for? And if you don't need the coverage there, or if you don't know anyone that needs it, it's probably not worth putting something up unless you just like to tinker and fart around. In that case, go for it, have fun.
I mean, that's where I would jump in there. It's just use cases are the number one opportunity that I'm chasing nonstop. I talked with an organization yesterday. I guess that was earlier this week. Um, and they, they need to instrument a ton of devices as an industrial setting, and it's these things are spread out over like 30 square miles, and yeah, build a little network around that, and immediately you've got a huge business opportunity. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. This thing from Liam is like this is the right way to do it. It brings up, it's actually a more, I don't know, usually like I'm fucking around and just having a good time, but it brings up a more serious topic for me, which is the Meteos Scientific server. Is I'm paying a monthly cost to run that thing. It had always been a demonstration kind of project. It hadn't really ever been this idea where it's like, oh, this is going to be a business. At one point it's like, oh, maybe it'll make a little bit, but it's not. And so I'm really considering, since Paul is running it anyway, he does a good job. He's got his own server that has, I think, all the same features that I've got. He's got the permissionless stuff. Does it make sense to keep running the MetSci LNS? And I'm not. I mean, financially it doesn't. So I got to be careful at that with taking care of my family as well as the Helium family. But there's not that many LNSs out there to use. It seems like there's enough now. So I'm really kind of wrestling with how do I manage that. There's, I don't know, 60 or 70 people on there. I don't think anyone right now has gone in whole hog and is building their full business on there. But obviously, for anyone who switches, it's a big pain in the ass to switch. So I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, we we've talked about this a bit in the past, I think, on the show, but the idea of like starting to throw together I guess you think of it as like a marketplace, right? Like
Mhm.
I want to use a console, like where do I go? And starting to treat uh, that as a directory to say like, hey, Gristle King is a great opportunity. Jump in, you know, build a device and pay 10 data credits per message or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing is a bit of a tangent, but I'm really excited about it. Is Scott Livingston showed off his demo of interactive documentation on
Hmm.
the community call this past week,
Yeah, that was cool.
um, and I got to run it. It's working on the staging site, um,
Very cool.
and I sent it to the dev rail guy at Solana, and he sent me back a message. He's like, I sent my first uplinks, like using the thing that was built straight into Docs. Um, and all of that, you know, like the only thing you need there is those EUIs, and that means you need a console account and all of that other stuff.
Yep.
So it's, you know, I think there's a lot of opportunities to sort of drive the usage, and particularly like talking about your LNS. It's just kind of like what things you chase to like, you know, we all have limited time
Yeah, yeah,
um, to get that maximum impact.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, did people just get OUIs from me? Is there a way right now to buy an OUI? I haven't looked at this for a while.
Yeah, so OUIs, ideally, we want to get those on chain. Right now, they are configured through the Helium configuration server. It's another one of those Oracle systems. Um, we basically facilitate that through the Helium Foundation. So you send hello at Helium Foundation an email, tell us what your various pertinent keys are. There's some docs on this up right now that sort
Okay.
of describe the process. And then we generate that, send it back to you. Um, and then there's like an invoice for the data credit cost of generating those things. And then we'll do a big burn at some point to sort of make the network whole.
Okay. So there's not a way like it used to be where it was I guess permissionless, right?
It was, yeah, previously. So now it all goes through Foundation. It's just sort of one of the sort of lesser impact things following the migration.
Yep.
So it's been, you know, a bit of a low priority. The cool thing is we've actually been seeing a bunch of people getting OUIs. So there's a mix between individual network operators and roaming and all of that stuff. But I see 1 or 2 weeks
Cool. And
still.
it's still the same price. I've stayed out of that discussion for a while, but it's 800 for the thing and then 100 for the first eight. What is it? Slabs.
Uh, it's 100 for the OUI, and
Uh huh.
then yeah, 100 per 8 dev headers, so
Okay. I had it
900
backwards.
total.
Yep.
Yep.
But still $900, and then that's unlimited. That's like an infinite lifetime, which is I think a problem business wise for Foundation. But your
Well,
problem, not my
it's
problem.
not. I mean, it's not a foundation thing; it's a network thing. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So the network could
um,
vote and say like, hey, we want you guys to start paying X amount per year to maintain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, I saw the comment. OUI is an organizationally unique identifier. It's just a way to organize LNS information so that handles the escrow account for data credit burning. Um, it handles the dev addresses, like a number of other sort of config things that go into operating an LNS through the Helium network, Helium packet router. Um,
Yep.
the one thing to note, and I think I've mentioned this before, is that the Helium Foundation is a member of the LoRa Alliance, and that's how we get the net ID that we allocate those dev addresses from. And that is a cost every year that the Helium Foundation pays. So, yeah, just a piece of the puzzle when it comes to thinking about how those get priced.
Yeah. 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 It's an interesting thing. I think Liam is right. There's probably not a big business in LNSs, and I'm kind of torn on it because it's like a fun thing to be running one and figure all that stuff out. And just by running it, I've learned an awful lot about the network. But the flip side
Mm-hmm.
is like, hey, you know, is this something that I don't want to betray the trust of someone who's going to say like, oh, cool, I'll use the Gristle King or the meatspace OUI when it's something that's like, it's not my main core business, and it's certainly not something that I have like a particular expertise in. So I got to be really careful about kind of keeping it up. So
Yeah, no, that it's a challenge with any LoRaWAN deployment is longevity. I'm thinking about that because that translates into cost. Like if I have to go move everything, that costs me time, it costs
yeah,
me
yeah,
money.
yeah,
Um, if you were to, you know, spin yours down, those dev addresses are relatively portable. You could hand those off to Paul, and then everyone with a device on your LNS, it would just now be sending data to Paul's instead. You change the route.
yeah,
Um, so there's, you know, ways to sort of negotiate all of that stuff, but uh, I still hold a really strong opinion that more LNSs in the ecosystem are better for the network.
yeah,
It's more people telling that story. It's more people bringing devices on, and we're seeing a lot of folks, you know, seeing that opportunity to build businesses around it. Because at the end of the day, you operate fairly minimal infrastructure, and then you get to do a 10x multiplier on that data credit cost in between. And so you've run the numbers, so you kind of know how that plays out. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Until I mean, frankly, until you get a ton of people, it doesn't. It's not. It seems really good, but it's not worth it. I think the other thing I've seen on the 𝗪𝗁 side is, and this is like one of the main reasons I want to keep it up, is that I've built that whole like YouTube tutorial set, and I've had so many people reach out and like, hey, how do I do this? It's like, oh, here's the video for that. And it's specific to 𝗪𝗁, so it all makes sense, and you can see exactly what it is. Like, I think there's a fair amount of value in that, but I'm not sure how to capture that. Do I just charge $10 a month for people to use that, or do I make that like a course that you can buy access to? I don't know. So
yeah, or it's, even just making it $5 a month for LNS, and then the data credits are separate. There's a bunch of ways to sort of cut that, and we see a lot of the folks like yours is frankly one of the cheaper options in the ecosystem, which is a great way to point people to that.
yeah,
Paul's only the one beating you.
yep,
Um, and then
that's right.
yeah,
Because the others are
and
like a
so
buck a month or a buck per device per month, which depending on if you're
yep.
using your device can be a lot more. Yeah, and then of course there's the app side of the visualization side of all the different data ingest. So this was something I learned when Nick Huff and I were doing the uplink engine work, is that you've got actually it's probably easier if I just put a text thing on here. It'll take me a second to get all this right. But this will help explain all of the stuff. So the data goes from the sensor to a gateway hotspot, to the Helium packet router HPR, to an LNS, to an app, and we'll just call that Viz. So this is kind of the path of the flow of data as you go through it. I know Derek was asking about the OUI stuff. So this is how data flows through. The sensor picks it up, passes it on in LoRaWAN, it's called a gateway. In Helium, we call it a hotspot. The hotspot passes it to kind of right now I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate me saying it, but single point of failure is HPR, right? Yeah. And then, which is the Helium packet router, and that routes it to the correct LNS. And the LNS is what Joey and I have been talking about, the Mesos Scientific LNS or Paul's LNS or DataCake's LNS or whoever's it is. And then that sends it on to your app or visualization. And that app or visualization, if it's DataCake, or if it's any of them, I don't need to pick on them, but they charge an additional amount to visualize that. And especially if you want to retain information or you're sending a ton of information, those costs can actually get pretty high if you want to retain information for a year, versus just a week. If you want to send a ton of different parameters versus just one or two. So, yeah,
Yeah, it all depends on that business use case too, and I think that's the box we're over here, which is like,
yeah,
what are you doing with it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
what's the value,
And that's what I keep looking
and
for.
that
Is like,
drives it all up the chain. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Where's the intersection of things of demands that LoRaWAN fits perfectly, and it's like small data, long distances, pretty remote, like all those things. If you have those things, then you've got the wildfire monitoring to loop it back to something kind of recent history
mhm.
is pretty. I think that's a really good use case for LoRaWAN stuff, because you need these things way out in the back of beyond where there isn't a lot of coverage for other stuff. They need to be able to sit by themselves for a long time and recharge from the solar panel and et cetera, be small. So
Yeah, I mean, there's wildfire. There are there's really countless opportunities
Yeah.
to make improvements, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one company, Meter.me, and they build a suite of basically water control devices and sensing devices, and they market that to ranchers and farmers.
Okay.
Um, and it's like, okay, cool, you know the level of the tank. But then you realize that what they were doing before that, they were driving a truck around their 500 acres checking water levels
Yep.
2 times a week. And you just save somebody not only the gas of you know $80 a month or whatever. Um, yeah, 𝗵𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗏, another awesome project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, you throw a LoRaWAN sensor out there, and you've gone from something it's orders of magnitude less expensive to do it these ways.
Yeah.
𝗵𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗏, great. I was out in the Bay week and a half, whatever, a couple weekends back,
Yep.
doing some fishing, and we found a abandoned crab pot. And that, this is exactly what Jameson's telling me about. I'm like, well, here it is. It
Yeah.
had all sorts of nasty growth on it, but I could see shore. It was like just right offshore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And those things keep
Capturing
killing.
it.
I think the ghost traps, like, they don't stop catching stuff,
Yeah.
which is the big problem. So cool. All right, dude. Anything else you want to hit? I can jump off early. I think we all have other shit to do. I don't want to drive this thing till the last piece. If anyone has any
Yeah.
questions in the chat, I'm happy to jump into them. Let's see. MQTT, I think that's coming. Paul's working on that for all of his LNSs, so that'll be in the 𝗪𝗁 one pretty soon. Multiplex, LoRaWAN, Mesh, Travis stuff, Open. Yeah, I think what I may do is just end up working with Open on the 𝗪𝗁 account. So
Yeah,
maybe that's the best way to do that. So, all right, dude, I'm gonna go use Huddle 01 for a private tech chat with a bunch of. I think Neil is showing us a bunch of rad stuff he's going to release out. So there's a couple of us watching that thing to see what do we got for feedback for him. So
Cool. I hope it works
super.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll call out, I'll hold myself publicly responsible. We're trying to get some docs out for data only hotspots
Okay.
back on the network.
Okay.
So if you know where to look, there's a little bit of a staging site up. It's the GitHub repo. You can kind of find that content. But we will get that refined, sort of tidied up, and publish this week. That's
Oh,
my goal.
super cool. Nice. Nice. I know that I was just talking to a guy yesterday that has a use case for data only hotspots doing, if you can figure out a way to get them on ships going back and forth from the US to Bermuda, because there's so many ships that are coming out of Jacksonville, coming out of Charleston, coming out of, what is it, Newport News, maybe Virginia Beach, and going to Bermuda, then they basically provide like constant LoRaWAN coverage across that whole place. And there's a ton of illegal fishing there with various countries coming in with 100-mile long lines and just ripping everything out of the ocean. So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool stuff to do there.
cool. Yeah, Travis, that's Gateway RS.
Gateway hours, okay.
On device or in cloud. It's all the standard, similar to what you used to do with Miner. Um, but you can do the onboarding now, which is the important piece to get that thing working.
Cool.
So,
I gotta find my. I have one hotspot I used for a paragliding competition, and I think I lost the 12
yeah,
words or lost access to it.
there's there's a little burp, burp.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my new favorite thing. I'm getting real oriented in here.
Yeah. I like it.
Anyway,
I like it.
yeah, great show. I'll catch you next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Joey. Thanks everybody for watching. Thumbs up, all the usual stuff, and we are out of here.